mental health, and I have two people with me today. I have my husband Naumaan, if you want to say Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
And I also have Dr. O'Brady Henry.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
How are you both?
Fine, thank you.
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having us on.
So what brings you here today then, Naumaan?
You do. My wife dragged me into this. Am I allowed to say that? As part of the mental health, I know it's a show for mothers, but I know you asked me to join and give a father's perspective and a partner's perspective. So that's what I'm here to do today.
So for those of you who don't know, I had a baby around 9 months ago, and I went through something called postpartum psychosis. And my husband was very supportive and is very supportive. So I just wanted to bring him in so you could hear my view as well as his view about postpartum psychosis and dealing with mental health after childbirth. We also have Dr. O'Brady Henry, who is a doctor who deals in the perinatal mental health industry. So how do you find working in this environment, Dr. O'Brady?
I find it very, very interesting, very rewarding, I would say. Yes.
And what is like the typical demographics that you deal with?
The typical demographics would be, of course, a pregnant woman and postnatal women, as well as women from all different parts of the community.
And does it tend to be more Asian women you deal with, or is it people of a white ethnic origin?
To be honest, it's a mixture. The majority of our patients are of white British, but of course there are also Asian as well as Black patients that we deal with, and other ethnic minorities.
Okay, and before we go into any more detail, can you tell everyone what do you do? What sort of doctor are you? What's your field of specialty?
That's an introduction.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I am a medical doctor. I specialize in psychiatry, general psychiatry. I'm a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. I have been working for several years in mental health as a consultant. And recently, I have joined the perinatal mental health services that would be in September last year, which I have found very, very interesting and very rewarding. I did some perinatal mental health psychiatry when I was a junior doctor in my training, and I've always had an interest in it. So when the opportunity came forward for me to have this position, I found it a really good opportunity and grasped it with both hands, because I really enjoy working with mothers and with their newborn babies.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, what field were you working in before?
General adult psychiatry.
Okay.
In our training, we train and learn about all the different aspects of psychiatry. And then you can be registered. I'm registered on a specialist register as a general adult psychiatrist, but you can also super specialize into other aspects of psychiatry, like perinatal mental health psychiatry, forensics, etc.
Okay, and so the reason we're here today is we wanted to talk a bit about postpartum psychosis. Could you tell the listeners what postpartum psychosis is?
Well, postpartum psychosis is a severe mental illness. It starts suddenly in the days or weeks after you have your baby. It's usually in the first 2 weeks after birth. Sometimes it can occur several weeks after giving birth to the baby. These symptoms vary and can change rapidly. And, they include highs, manic or on top of the world, feeling on top of the world, can be low mood, tearfulness, anxiety, irritability, being restless, agitated. Rapid changing in mood is seen quite often. There's also significant changes in behavior, which is out of character for the individual. You can be more talkative, active, sociable, more sociable than usual. Or you could be withdrawn and not wanting to talk to anyone. Sleep is a difficulty usually with postpartum psychosis and not wanting to sleep. You become disinhibited and develop feelings of paranoia, and some can even hallucinate, having hallucinations and develop odd beliefs, which we call delusions about themselves, the people around, and also about babies.
Yeah, I can definitely confirm when I was going through postpartum psychosis, I was definitely elated, over talkative. I had no filter. So my husband was hearing everything and anything. I was quite confused, didn't trust anybody. What else can you say? How was I when I was going through it, Naumaan?
Well, I'm quite impressed that you can remember quite a lot of that. The NHS website has a list of symptoms, and I think you met every single symptom on that list. It was a very difficult time for both of us and our families, and obviously our little one as well. But I can confirm that everything that doctor said, I think there was an aspect of that you were experiencing.
Definitely.
The one thing that got to me was, both of us, was a lack of sleep, and I just thought it was quite normal after having a baby, because they say you have changes in your hormones, feelings, emotions are all over the place. So I thought maybe this is a normal. I had no idea that this was a severe mental illness. So it was only we discovered it. It was deteriorating, and it was getting worse and worse. As you said, it comes on suddenly, and it gets worse and worse. But we discovered it when one of the nurses came to the house and realised that these are the symptoms. Until then, I just assumed that this was what normal motherhood postpartum was.
Can I just comment? That is normal for mothers to have what is called baby blues, which affects half of new mothers, okay? And it normally occurs in the first 3 to 4 days after giving birth. And yes, you would have the mood swings and the feeling down and bursting into tears and feeling irritable, but this clears up after 10 days generally. All right, the postnatal psychosis is different in that it is a more severe illness, more severe mood swings, and more severe disturbance of the mental state.
So before, obviously, we went through this, I had no idea what postpartum psychosis was, although I'd known about postnatal depression. Would you be able to help us just differentiate, or at least for the listeners, to differentiate what the differences are between the signs of postnatal depression and, I think you've already mentioned, the postpartum psychosis?
Yeah. Postnatal depression, it affects about 10 to 15 in every 100 women after they give birth. The symptoms are similar to normal depression, with low mood, poor sleep, lack of energy, lack of appetite, negative thoughts. And there would be a similarity to postpartum psychosis. But when we depart from postnatal depression and enter into psychosis is when you start to hallucinate, having psychotic symptoms, such as the hallucinations and delusional beliefs and really chaotic behavior.
Okay, so almost a loss of control.
Yes.
Would you say that postpartum psychosis is more severe than postnatal depression?
Significantly. It is a major illness. And to be honest, it's considered to be a psychiatric emergency. From the time someone is spotted with postpartum psychosis, it is imperative for you to contact your GP, go to accident and emergency, call NHS 111, whichever emergency access you can find to be able to get assessed, because it's so rapid in its development.
Yeah, I think I got a very good explanation from one of the doctors that came to visit us, and he said because it's a mental illness, it's a lot more difficult to notice until it's a bit late. But he did a really good comparison. He said if you imagine it, imagine you're in a car crash and you've split your head open and you're bleeding in a car crash. You cracked your head open. How soon would the ambulance take you to hospital? And the answer is immediately. And he said that's the same, but in a mental form.
Yeah,
It's exactly, and that really gave me something to compare against.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
I think with the postpartum psychosis, like my husband and I had never heard of it before. You hear about postnatal depression, you hear about baby blues, daddy blues, but for some reason there's no mention of postpartum psychosis, especially in the Asian community.
I think a lot of we spent quite a lot of time and money on antenatal classes. Well, when we were expecting, it was in COVID lockdown, so a lot of the classes were virtual, all online. So we went through quite a few classes. A lot of the weekends were just drawn into those. But in all of those, I'd never heard of the phrase postpartum psychosis. And I think it affects 0.1% of the population.
Yes. 1 in 1,000 women will develop it.
1 in 1,000 women, right? Yeah, that's and I suppose it's because of that it wasn't mentioned, which is why we were completely expecting. We were preparing, in fact, for depression and baby blues and whatnot. This was completely different.
Yes.
So just I suppose for the listeners out there is something called postpartum psychosis. It affects 1 in 1,000. So if the symptoms that doctors mentioned, just to be aware of that.
Yes, but it's interesting what you have said there, because we are in the process of revamping our service and expanding it. And we are looking to hear from you, from those who use our service, what we can do more, to let the community know, let everybody know more about mental health and about postnatal depression and postpartum psychosis. Because especially postpartum psychosis, which is very, very debilitating and potentially dangerous. And as we say, it is a psychiatric emergency, and I think it's one of the few psychiatric emergencies that we have. So we are certainly working towards that. And based on what you're saying, it would be a very good idea to include that within the parenting courses to talk about postpartum psychosis. Even though it's fairly rare, it's still 1 in 1,000. So that's quite a few still that would develop it. So this is definitely something for me to take forward in our developmental phase of our service.
I think definitely when you do these parental courses before having a baby, its focus is more on labor and giving birth. But when it comes to recovery, there's not much focus on the recovery. So
yes.
Potentially there could be a course focused on recovery and covering the various mental health issues that you can have once giving birth.
Yes, yeah. I think what happens so often is that when you go for your booking, the midwives normally identify which women would have mental health problems, mental illness, based on your history. And if there are any concerns, they would refer on to us during the pregnancy. But if you do not have a past history of mental illness, or you do not have anybody in your family with postnatal depression or postpartum psychosis or any other mental illnesses, then they are less likely to refer you to us, the perinatal service, because we do support mothers during pregnancy and straight from pregnancy into giving birth up to 12 months at present.
So the second time round, if so, for instance, with me, would you be supporting me the second time round straight away?
Yes, definitely, because chances of you developing postpartum psychosis increases significantly with your next pregnancy. So we would have to support you and monitor very closely to prevent that and to restart any medication and to follow you up through perinatal mental health service.
I think I read somewhere that it's a 50% chance of having it again if you've had it previously. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
So,
but the important thing about that is that you recover very, very well, and if it is managed properly, if it's managed, to ensure that we minimize the development of postpartum psychosis, then you're able to continue with a normal pregnancy, a normal post-delivery period. And that is why we are here in perinatal mental health service, to make sure that we support mothers who are at risk of these illnesses.
so Zebi, you want to tell us a bit about your experience in the service? Because Doctor mentioned that the service is doing it. How was your experience from the point of diagnosis, and how do you feel your journey was once you were admitted? In fact, what happened once you were diagnosed?
So I'd say obviously my days are going to be a bit sketchy. So I've got my husband here to fill in some of the details. But I'd say I was severely sleep deprived, as was my husband. And I'd say around day 5, is that correct? Around day 5, the services got involved. And so that was a crisis team. And it took about 5 days for me then, from them getting involved to going into mother and baby unit. So that whole process of diagnosing me, assessing me, it took I'm saying about 5 days. My husband will correct me.
No, it's not wrong. It was just it was the weekend at that time, wasn't it? I think it was a Thursday. The nurse first found, and then Friday nobody was available, and then Saturday, Sunday came, and then it was Eid on Monday or Tuesday. I think that's the day you got taken in.
Yeah, so that was around 10 days after Umar being born.
Yeah.
And so even though it's a medical emergency, it's taken 5 days, even though that sounds like a short time, that is a very long time. So over the 5 days, my symptoms are getting worse and worse.
Basically doubling every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
by the time I did go into the mother and baby unit, it was day 10. And imagine me not having sleep for 10 days, maybe just sleeping 1 hour a day, 1 hour of 24 hours. It can drive you crazy, and it did. I was hallucinating. I was in and out of sleep. I didn't know what I was saying. I think I had no filter at one stage as well. Throughout the whole stage, actually, had no filter. It could have been, in another light, you can see it as quite humorous, because I was just saying things without thinking. I was extremely excited and hyper, and I wasn't able to go sleep.
So when you got taken to the mother and baby unit, how do you find it there? The environment, the people?
So when I first went to the mother and baby unit, I was a bit anxious.
Oh, sorry, just for the listeners, the context of what a mother and baby unit is. Is this just a specialist unit for mothers with postpartum psychosis? And they have how many beds? 7?
Dr. O'Brady, is the mother and baby unit for people with postpartum psychosis, or is it for any mums with any?
It is for moms who have a serious mental disorder. Postpartum psychosis would be certainly one of the major diagnoses of mothers there. Also for mothers who have pre-existing mental health conditions, such as bipolar 1, especially which involves mania and depression, and also mothers who have schizoaffective disorder are admitted. It is usually emergency admission. Unfortunately, some of the mothers are assessed under the Mental Health Act and they enter the units. And what the good thing about it is that they tend to recover fairly quickly once the treatment gets started and you are in a secure and safe environment. The advantages of a mother and baby unit too is that you are able to have your baby with you so that the bonding process can continue and attachment.
Yeah, that's correct. So I was in a mother and baby unit in Nottingham,
Mhm.
and I actually was sectioned as well because I was severely ill. So uh, once I got there, it took me some time to get my head around it because I've done
Mhm.
psychology myself. I know all the psychology terms, and I was having a bit of a panic attack. Oh my god, I'm sectioned. Oh my god.
Mhm.
Oh my god, I'm
Yeah.
in a room. They're isolating me in a room.
Mhm.
So I was going through a lot of mixed emotions. And like, for instance, my family, my husband, they didn't really know what sectioned is because obviously if you ask a lot of people that don't work in the mental health environment, or
Mhm.
people who haven't studied psychology before, um, you're not going to know what is sectioned, what is
Mhm.
postpartum psychosis. So even when it came to when my husband was telling people that I had postpartum psychosis, they had no idea what it was,
Yeah.
and they had no idea the severity of it. The severity of it. They didn't know that being sectioned is quite severe, and
Yes.
uh, so when I got to the mother and baby unit, I was confused. I didn't trust anybody. I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to be at home. It was our Eid day, so
Mhm.
I just wanted to be at home. I kept on telling everyone, "You're making me miss my Christmas," and my husband, my husband did come regularly though, and when I after around a week, I did start to feel a bit more comfortable there, because I realized that it was the environment that I needed. It was
Mhm.
it was quite baby friendly, mum friendly. Um, they had a lot of nurses and other multidisciplinary team members that were helping you with different various things. So you'd have one helping you with breastfeeding. You'd have one helping you with mum and baby bonding activities. You just have one that would be there just to talk to you. So it was quite good that they had that multidisciplinary team. Um, when I got there, I knew that this place is good because they had lots of sensory things for the baby. It was nice and colorful. It was comfortable. So I feel like they do make a lot of effort at these mother and baby units. How do you feel when we got there first, Naumaan? How did you feel putting me in a mother and baby unit?
Well, I think it was definitely the right place because of the team of doctors, nurses, nursery nurses, and the care was 24/7, and that was something I was basically doing alone for the first week, and there was no chance I could have continued that alone. So it was definitely the right place, and then once you were there, when they allowed me to come inside, and it was COVID at the time, so they didn't have any other guests allowed, and even my times were limited to visit 2 hours, 2 times a week. But I think we managed to make it a bit more than that. But the care, the review processes. So there's a weekly review process, which was very in depth, and they gave me an update on everything that's going on, how the baby was being looked after, how you were being looked after, how you're progressing. So I felt that I don't think there was any better place you could have been. I think that was the best place you could have been at, and the doctors there were quite very reassuring, and I was really happy that was the right place to be in. Otherwise, it would have been the general psychiatric unit, and that's just with.
Could you explain what the general psychiatric unit is, Dr. O'Brady,
The
for our
general
listeners?
psychiatric unit is a basic ward psychiatric ward where people who have been detained under the Mental Health Act or people who are informal are admitted for treatment of a mental illness, a serious mental illness.
And I believe some mothers, they go to the general psychiatric unit.
Yes, unfortunately,
Unfortunately,
that is far from ideal from our viewpoint, but beds can be a difficulty. We have association with Nottingham as well as beaches in Derby, but sometimes all those beds are full. And because it's such an important illness to treat right away and to get medication into you and to make sure that you have the necessary support, we have no choice but to admit some mothers into a general adult ward. And in that case, the baby is not admitted along with you. That is why there's a big national thrust into improving perinatal mental health services because it has shown that when mothers go into hospital with their babies, both the mother and the baby thrive much better and recovery is much better in mother and baby units.
yeah, I'd have to say I don't think I would have been able to go to, because I've worked in a psychiatric unit before. I don't think I
Mhm.
would be able to uh, go to one myself.
Yes.
And I think that for mums who are ill, I'd definitely recommend they fight for
Mhm.
their cause, and
Mhm.
they definitely try to go to a mother and baby unit.
Yeah.
I know when I was ill and severely sleep deprived, I was fighting for my cause, and I was mentioning to the services, I'm not going to a general psychiatric unit. I need to be with my baby, and that was something that I kept on consistently saying. So
Yes.
if you're strong enough, make sure you try to be with
Mhm.
your baby and try not to get separated. Or if you
Yeah.
have your
Can I
family
just say
members that can help as
one
well.
thing though? If we cannot get beds locally, we also try beds nationally. So there are other mother and baby units throughout the country. So you may end up being admitted to a different part of the country, which would be good for you because you're getting into mother and baby, the mother and the child. But unfortunately, the family would not be able to visit as often because there would be great distances away. And we try very hard not to have that kind of situation.
Yeah.
But even then, it would be preferable for you to be admitted to a mother and baby unit rather than to a general adult ward for the advantages that have been discussed so far.
I think we were very lucky because it could have been that general ward, or it could have been anywhere in the country, Glasgow, London, and that commute just wouldn't have
I,
would have been too
I think
difficult.
there is I believe there's a shortage of mother and baby units, right, Dr. Brady?
Yes, yes, there is. And there's a national thrust. I mean, there is so much going on in the realm of perinatal mental health, and there is development, service developments throughout the whole country, looking into perinatal mental health developments of mother and baby units and perinatal mental health services in the community. Our service is primarily in the community, supporting mothers in the community. So it is multifaceted, and more we are building and growing, and there is an initiative going to have a much better service. And we're in the process of recruiting more staff and to be able to have teams which are out in the community, more out in the community, so that we can be closer and out there with everyone that needs us.
So we only travel to Nottingham, but even that is a bit of a travel, maybe an hour or so.
Yes.
If you're going regularly. So my husband was coming more or less every day. And every day I was going through different phases and different symptoms. Is there anything that stood out to you, Naumaan? Anything that I did that was different, or any phase that you want to highlight?
Nothing I'd specifically highlight on the show, but for any of the listeners that have gone through this, or that hopefully you don't, but if it ever does happen, just note that it gets worse before it gets better. Or at least that's what we found. It was getting more severe, even though you're in the hospital. It was getting worse, and which was a bit confusing. But luckily, they prepared us for that, and they said the medication takes a bit of time to kick in, and it's not going to be an immediate change. You'll notice. So the first 2 weeks were quite very difficult because it was getting worse and worse, and then it started to, you can see the medication kicking in. You can see the people around you and the changes, and then it just started getting better from there. One quite important thing that I wanted to talk about in this was the views of our community, at least of the Asian community, and the experience that I had on mental illness on just general mental illness. At least with this experience, it was quite different. It was something I'd experienced. So when you were diagnosed, or before you were diagnosed formally, you were going through a lot of changes, and I heard a lot of different things, and just for any people that don't have mental illness in the family, or don't have any experience of mental illness, it can be very difficult to grasp the concept and what it is. So I know a few of the remarks that I got initially was first was denial by people around us. People just denial of the fact that no, there is no mental illness happening. It's just part of postpartum. There's nothing wrong. And then there was other people that were saying it was just an attention-seeking kind of mechanism. So there's a lot of different things. The other kind of normal thing would be, oh, somebody's done nazar on you, and somebody's done black magic. I remember that was said as well. Yeah, you've just had a baby and everything's gone well, so it must be black magic. It can't be. There's no such thing as mental illness. So I mean, just coming to terms with all of that, and I hadn't experienced mental illness before this. So all of those things were like, oh, could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be black magic? Could somebody have done nazar on us? I don't think Zebi's acting, but I don't know if it's hormones. So it just really clouded the water for me, and I don't know if this is something you experience, Doctor, with other patients, at least from ethnic minority backgrounds.
Yes.
What are your experiences with this?
Yes, that is very true. There is typically that kind of response to mental illness. It seems to be almost a taboo to have mental illness, and generally mental health hasn't even been spoken about within the whole national service, within the whole community, because for everyone, it's not just in ethnic minority communities, but I think all the communities, there is a lack of knowledge about mental health. Now, in the last few years, this has been growing because of initiatives, several different initiatives about mental health, and talking about various aspects of mental health from celebrities, even the royals, etc. And that is increasing the profile of mental health, and letting people know that it exists, and it is not something to be ashamed of, because it is the same way you can develop diabetes or high blood pressure or break your leg. That is not your fault, and certainly illnesses such as these is not the fault of the mother or the family or the spouse, but all these different thoughts about what it could be tends to occur in communities. And I would say, especially in communities of of BAME communities. So it is, and we have recognized that. And that is one of the reasons why I took the opportunity to come on this program, to be able to use this framework to educate and to share my knowledge and to get it out there, what is available. And for you to come and access and come and learn more about mental health and about these serious illnesses, which can be treated. They can be treated very, very well, and there's so much support available. Unfortunately, so many members of the community do not know that, and it's important for us more and more. We are trying to reach out and to build. And as I said, this is why I have accepted your kind invitation to be here this afternoon.
It's an honor having you with us, Doctor.
It's my honor to be here.
And we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us and the listeners.
Yes, most welcome.
For just on the back of the awareness, the point you made about awareness, obviously this program that Zebi's doing, it's once a week, 1 hour once a week, only during Ramadan. But obviously the illness doesn't have a time. So I suppose what we wanted to say as a couple is, if anybody listening has either gone through this or goes through this, be it now or be it in the future, feel free to reach out to us, and we can not only share our experiences, but also point people in the right direction to the services, to the help there is out there. And personally, if there's any dads that are going through this or go through this, hopefully you don't, but if you ever do, please feel free to reach out to me, and we can have a little chat.
Could I just add something, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to make you all aware of our service, a bit more information about our service. Our service is perinatal mental health service, which covers Leicester, Leicestershire, and Rutland. So it's a fairly large area. And as I said, we are expanding. We assist mothers who are pregnant and babies up to 12 months. We're looking to increase that to 24 months. We have nurses. It's a multidisciplinary team. It's in the community. We have nurses, nursery nurses who do specific work with regard to bonding, helping with bonding, sleep issues, etc. And we have OTs, we have recovery workers, and of course we have psychiatrists like myself. And we continue to work towards improving our services. We have outpatients where doctors can review you as the need arises, or usually every 4 to 6 weeks. And we continue to move forward and to look to find ways of letting the community know about what is available. We also hoping to have lived experience individuals such as yourself, Zebunisa. We would be very, very happy for your input in that, because we're looking to develop a cohort of individuals who have gone through what you have gone through, and to help us to shake up our service and to think more about what is necessary, what more we can do to improve the service that we deliver. It is also very important for dads, as you say, that dads, we do not give enough attention to dads, I would say, in my experience. And we are looking into that also, to have psychological input towards helping dads, understand and come to terms with all that has happened with their wife's illness. And there is so much more that can be done. So we are hoping more and more and looking actively to work with the community in a more hands-on way, in a more collaborative manner.
Brilliant. Is there any way that any of the listeners can get in touch with the work you're doing, or if there's anybody else that's experienced this and listening, is there any way to contact yourself or your team?
Yes, please do contact our team, Perinatal Mental Health Service. With regard to referrals, the way you're referred into our service is through the GP or through the midwives when they're booking you, as I mentioned earlier. If they identify that you have a perinatal need and a mental illness, they will refer you into our team. We assess the referral and then take it from there. Assign a nurse if you need medication or monitoring of medication that you're already on. We are there to do that. There's also the preconception clinic. So before you become pregnant, we have a clinic whereby we are able to give you advice about medication. So there are different aspects available of our service. But of course, the main port of call would be the GP, and then you can also call our perinatal admin for more information. There's also a website. If you look for Leicestershire Partnership website, you should be able to see more about our service and contact details. I would most certainly give that information to Zebunisa.
Okay, perfect. I have to say the service that we received was really good. Once you're ill, I wouldn't, obviously you tackle people that are ill, but once you are ill, the service you get from the mother and baby units, the perinatal team, it's all very good. Everyone's really experienced and they know how to deal with you. Would you say the same thing, Naumaan?
100%.
100%, yeah. Definitely.
Okay. I'm very happy to hear that.
And we'd definitely be willing to help you guys out with your research or the lived experience thing that you were mentioning.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's great, because we certainly developing that as a service. There are many exciting things occurring now in this realm of perinatal mental health.
Was there anything else you wanted to add before we end the show?
Are you talking to me or doctor?
Yes, you.
Oh, to me. I just wanted to say that it's not an award ceremony, but I just wanted to say thank you. I'm just really grateful for at least from my as a partner, because once Zebi was in the unit, she was being looked after, and I'm really grateful that she was in the right place. But at the same time, our son was also with her, so I was in an empty home. I was alone at home throughout the duration of her staying there. So it's almost like our family was ripped apart during that period. So I just wanted to say a massive thank you to my parents and our friends that actually came and helped out in that time. I got people giving food to me and just checking in. So that was that's just something that kind of happens in the background, but really grateful for those people.
And any last words, Dr. Brady? You have about 10 seconds.
I would say that, this is an excellent initiative of having this program. Thank you once again for inviting me. I think it's very important to share your experiences and to let others know. It's, you can say, well, it happened to me. I've learned from it.
Dr. Brady, we're actually out of time now, but thank you very much, Dr. Brady
Okay.
and Naumaan, for coming on the